It is day 3 of training with Dotti, and I've just videoed some highlights of today's training session. I warmed her up the same way I did yesterday, moving her around, making sure she's soft off both reins, soft off both legs. Always, of course, working on straightness, so some leg yielding in the walk and a little bit of shoulder room, which I've then tried to incorporate into our trot work here as well. Obviously, the shoulder into the left is easier than the shoulder in. So the shoulder into the right is easier than the shoulder into the left because she wants to be on that right shoulder. So getting that right shoulder off the track is a little bit of a challenge. I work very hard on keeping her straight on the 10-meter circles. I use a lot of outside leg to control the hindquarters while bending her around my inside leg. I find this saddle is slipping a little bit on her. I don't know. I've tried adding a fluffy today. I'm still not happy with it. Maybe I just need to tighten my girth another hole. I will experiment again tomorrow. I am very happy with her rhythm and tempo. She is a little distracted by the flies, and yes, she has fly spray on, but we've got the biting kind of flies at the moment. So I've just started her off in like a normal working trot, doing some 10-meter circles, just ensuring that she's listening to both my inside aids and my outside aids, because she can just ignore the outside aids or try and take over and place her body where she wants to place her body rather than following where my body is going. The other thing I found with her is I need to get her more consistently in front of my leg. So while she's happy to trot, there's not a lot of gears for the more collected work. So I find she'll go from like a nice working trot to a nice hold. But what I want to develop is be able to collect the trot up and send the trot on to develop the lengthen paces as well, and the medium trot, which can only be created out of a collected trot. So after I've done some work in the working trot, I've put her into a more collected trot. I am using my whip lightly on top of the hindquarters at times to keep that engagement, because it feels like she just almost, her back drops under you and she just stops. And she stops traveling, and she does it even more in the canter. She's not hugely responsive to the whip, especially behind your leg, which is another reason I'm using it on top of the quarters, as well as the fact that I want to engage the hind legs more and develop the more collected trot. And as you can see, I've gone into sitting trot for this work now. Always looking for her to be straight. Now, what I mean by straight is that her body from poll to tail is following the line that she's traveling on, whether that's a straight line or a curved line, back feet stepping up into the footprints left by the front feet. So because this horse is not that straight, I'm paying even more attention than what I normally would. Ensure that she's taking even steps with both back legs and is not heavier on one rein or the other. So she just had a little tiny tantrum there and went to run through my aids and did a little bit of like a head shake and tried to snatch the reins out of my hands, which is why I had to bring her back. And she's gone on again quite nicely now. She also does tend to like to brace with the top half of her neck rather than coming up through the thoracic sling. So that's something that I need to work on as well. But that also comes back to the getting consistently forward into the contact and staying in front of your leg, or staying in front of my leg. Because what she tends to want to do is lean on the contact, brace in the top half of her neck, and then go faster rather than softening and coming up underneath you. Now for the canter. This was definitely the most difficult part of the ride. She was trying very hard not to be straight in both directions, and we did pick up some incorrect canter leads in both directions. The right side absolutely being way more difficult than the left side. However, rather than listening to my aids and following my body, she did try and just run through my aids a couple of times, or she would just do that, dropping her back and just going back to trot with me, which I find quite challenging because, as I said, she's not that responsive to the whip, and I don't want the whip to become part of her aid to maintain the canter as well. So I found I had to sit very tall, very still, really concentrate on keeping my lower leg on and maintaining my position. And I still did lose her a couple of times. So when I bring her back to walk, because the whole thoracic sling, the shoulders, the back, everything's like literally gone down, so there's no connection. So the easiest thing to do is make a transition back, because she's made the transition to trot. So then I ask her to come back to walk to get that connection again, to then go forward, up and forward into the contact. And in this direction, I tried to ride a little bit shoulder fore, because she was wanting to throw the shoulders out to the outside. Now on the right hand side, she's wanting to throw the right shoulder in and then swing the hindquarters out. So on this side, I tried to concentrate on riding quarters in and really keeping a really firm contact with my outside rein, trying to ride as straight as possible. I feel like she's actually making me crooked, so she is hurting my back a little bit. And then the canter's a little bit bigger and chargier than what I wanted, but I had to come to a compromise there to keep her in the canter and still keep that nice light frame and connection. So in these instances when she's going back to trot, I'm not asking her to go back to trot. Now you'll see there I get a little bit of quarters in the canter, but then she straightens herself up. So I didn't have a lot of control there. I had to just keep attempting to reposition her to where I wanted her to maintain the canter.